Y'all know what this is.
Yes, we've been waiting for this.
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Oh man, this is so wonderful.
I literally called my dad the moment I found out. I called my father, and he's like, he literally. You want to know what that man did?
What did he do?
He laughed. He laughed.
Because he knows
he laughed
that if there is an afterlife, that Henry Boy is going to get an ass whooping by a line of Cambodians and Chileans and Argentinians.
You know, I read something, and I know you guys are going to talk about this, but you know, I read more bombs over Cambodia than the Germans launched at in Great Britain during World War II.
Yeah.
At like I said,
I'm explicit, like, planning.
Yeah. I'm firmly convinced that it went down like this. Rosalind was taking a walk with God, as she is wont to do, and said, and by the way, Henry Kissinger said, and God's like, wait, excuse me? I thought I said he's not.
I'm sorry, he was supposed to be gone 30 years ago.
Oh no, Rosalind, allow me a moment. Let me handle this. Honey, I am so sorry I let that happen. Give me one moment.
Well,
you know what to do.
Proof only the good die young.
Facts. Well, then what? How do you explain Jimmy Carter?
Or Betty White?
Probably like kicked a puppy or like murdered a nun.
By accident.
Oh, definitely by accident. Just say anything bad about Betty White.
But I'm firmly convinced also that God took the form of a Cambodian woman and sang Tyrone at the gates of heaven.
There's so much. I think one of the first things I heard a lot of from people ostensibly on the anti-war left, and I get it, is why are you celebrating? Kissinger won. He made it to 100 and got to live a very comfortable, long life. He did. And I get that. The celebration comes because it is the only level of power we have in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to bring him to justice. We don't get to make him account. We can only do the mildly subversive act of
cheering his death. Yeah, because in the West we have. In the West, we've been.
I'm sorry. I keep. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Dale.
In the West, we've been raised to never, ever, ever in our lives speak ill of the dead. It is a subversive form of humor that most people consider impolite. To say he's dead, good. So it's considered impolite, low bred, low class. It's considered a lot of things because even as people on Twitter, Jack Dorsey called it Twitter. I'm gonna still call it Twitter. The fact that even on Twitter, various right-wing motherfuckers were saying, how dare you celebrate someone's death like this? And we're like, do you not remember the Queen's death? Do you not remember how we celebrated that shit? Stay on your side of Twitter. You knew what this was.
Go and try to tell, people from Kenya to not celebrate the Queen's death. It's just when I get, I get that there's a lot of people who want to make exceptions, like, and say something like, well, I can see if someone personally victimized you, you'd be happy for the death, but, otherwise, blah, 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 blah. They want to try to find these ways to say that you can't celebrate the man's death, even though he didn't personally hurt you. And it's sort of like, it's an act of telling on yourself by saying, you're not allowed to have empathy.
It's allowed. It's also an act of policing. It's a policing act. People were telling Black Americans when the Queen died, people were telling Black Americans, how dare you join in that celebration? And we're like,
Right.
No.
Well, look, I'm a
Some people
Philadelphia
even
sports
step,
fan. I'll be as lowbrow as I want.
and some of us even stepped up and said, to be quite honest, many of us have enough Irish in us that we can celebrate the Queen's death legally.
Oh, wow. So I got to celebrate. Hell yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. If you are Black American, you probably have enough Irish in you to celebrate the Queen's death.
It's sort of, it's one of those things where we get that we all do get that they won. That's precisely why we're celebrating, because it is the only act that we can consciously do in our control that can say, the last thing we're going to do is give you dignity, because that's the only thing in our power to deny you.
Because let me tell you something, Kissinger, most people of his stature do have a semi-public to public funeral. That man did not have one. Because he knew.
Nobody wanted one.
Because he knew. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. If they had a funeral and somebody decided to have a whole ass demonstration, I'd be like, you knew what this was.
Dude, I'll go tailgate there. That'd be a great time. Again, Philadelphia sports fan. I like tailgating.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry what happened to you the other day, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's love. It's love. I had to do it.
You know what? Every now and then, we all got to take a beating.
Yo, that wasn't a beating. Debo wore Air Force Ones. Air Force Ones. Y'all should have seen that coming.
That's all right. We still got the one that counted.
Okay. But yes, they should have tailgated at if Kissinger's funeral had been known to the public, there would have been a tailgate. There would have been some bomb. You think about how good the food would have been.
Oh God, right?
So much bomb ass Vietnamese food.
I was gonna say, I know they make a banging recipe. Yeah,
I'd just be there for the coffee and the mochi coffee and Vietnamese coffee flavored mochi, to be quite honest.
I would
honestly, I'm just there for spring rolls and coffee, bitch.
Of like some Argentinian.
I just thought we were having some fun foods and some drinks. I didn't realize we actually get to celebrate somebody's day. Hell yeah!
Oh yeah, and the Argentinian food.
That's, I mean, that does bring to like just why it's so.
Yeah, and I just ate. Now I'm hungry again.
It's not like he's some lower level government functionary who had a hand in the overthrow of, Guatemala and, whatever. This is a man whose designs and whose directives and whose control built the deaths of millions of people. And I do mean millions.
And
yeah, with an M. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the bombing of East Timor. There's some other bullshit that he was involved in Jamaica. That is why my dad hates him, and he doesn't go into it. But I'm sure it's horrible, and it makes me wish that, and it makes him wishing for my dad's occasional wishing for his demise valid. So
I don't think there's ever like a question of like, when you say your dad hates him because of X, and I'm like, I don't think a person of color ever needs to elaborate on why they hate Henry Kissinger, because statistically he was involved in the death of someone they knew.
Yeah, I was gonna say, odds are, with the number of people that he had killed.
Yeah, in other words, yes, if you are a person of color, especially if you are outside the United States, especially if you are outside the West, you probably know, if not one person, you might know a family of people that are not walking the face of the earth because of something Kissinger directly or indirectly did.
That's like the stunning thing to me is the public availability of this information for so long, yet it still was not taught. I did not learn about Henry Kissinger's war crimes until after college. I mean, I consider this a failure of education.
It is.
Maybe not a failure.
You know when I learned about it?
When?
was when you brought it up at the end of the very first episode, and I was like, why do you hate Henry Kissinger so much? And I Googled it, and I went, holy shit.
Ooh.
Well,
You're like, oh.
That's the thing. That the information has been publicly available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
first one came up on Google.
But
Yeah.
it was never really taught. It has to be sought. And
Dude, I started literally everybody at home and anybody watching this later on, open up a separate tab, okay? Hop on your Google machine and just start typing in Henry Kissinger. I guarantee you the next thing that pops up will be war crimes. That will be the rest of your autofill.
Well, that's like the thing. I vaguely knew that he was he served a dual role in the Nixon administration, and I always kind of forget.
I think it was National Security Advisor and Secretary of State.
It was the National Security.
Yeah, in my house,
Secretary of State. Yeah.
In my house, Henry Kissinger was a swear word.
Well,
my dad didn't like him either, and I never really understood why.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people who are like, my dad hated Kissinger, and I never knew why.
Right.
And then you grow up, you go to college, and you're like, and then you hear about it, and you're like, oh.
I heard his name somewhere, and I said his name, and my dad, and you know my dad, Ren, you know what my dad was like. Nice, easygoing, fun-loving guy. I said his name, my dad got serious. He looks at me, don't you ever speak that name in this house again. I'm like, whoa, all right, Pops.
I hope your dad got an empty beer can to throw at him as he descended.
I'm sure that God had that set up for all the people up there that Henry Kissinger put up there.
I have a feeling there was a viewing gallery and they all were like, oh, you wanted to see this? Here is the one thing you've been waiting for too damn long.
Yeah, good things come to those who wait.
I think it's worth saying that there's a reason why Kissinger is the lightning rod for this when people like Nixon, Johnson, Ford, etc. aren't. And it's because he is the through line through all of it. He placed himself as the primary architect for all of these things. And obviously they wouldn't have been enabled without people like Johnson, without Nixon, without Ford. And to be fair, our experience in regime change as a country existed before Kissinger got his hands on that apparatus.
Sure, but was there anybody as blatant?
Yeah, was he? I don't really think there was anybody as blatantly Machiavellian as him.
Well, that's the fun thing is the ideological reasons behind, Eisenhower basically supporting the overthrowing of any government that threatened to upset, basically capitalist fruit companies.
United Fruit Company, may you burn in hell.
Yeah, but there was still. It's an insane ideological reason, but there was an ideological reason. Kissinger's. It's a bit more enigmatic. The best I can gather, and I could be very wrong about this, I'm not a scholar of Kissinger. I've just, I've read a lot.
There's only so much you can read before you throw something.
But it seemed to me that he just was a believer in the maximalist power of the state and the state's right to do whatever. Might makes right. We are the winners because we are. I am, therefore, I have a right to.
Sure, and I think that's what bothered me. Look, the atrocities and millions of people that he had murdered, and call it whatever you want, they were murdered. They were enough of a reason to hate him. But I think that pure arrogance that he spewed, that's what my biggest turnoff was.
It was I would say in my case, it's also the turnoff. It's the fact that he's not even going to pretend to have any self-examination regarding his actions. It's like, he's not even going to pretend to.
At least give me the weird deniable, No,
At least
I
Bush
didn't do
pretends. At
that.
least Bush pretends or kind of does something vaguely looking like penance, depending on who you ask. But Kissinger doesn't even
Hitler was
do
a
any of
painter
that shit,
too.
huh?
Hitler was a painter too.
But at this point, it's just the idea that everyone's kind of shocked at the passive aggressive way that Joe Biden kind of was like, okay, he's dead. He certainly made an impact.
He was something.
He certainly made an impact. And I'm like, oh, so that's why you didn't invite him into the house at all. I will say one of the only things you can recommend Joe Biden for is the fact that he never invited Kissinger into the White House in any official capacity. Like,
yeah, he was the first.
He was one of the first presidents to say, I don't want that man in here. Which, I'm going to be honest, it's such a small but big thing. It really is.
Standards, what you're going to let in your house. You know, Mom always said, take the trash out, don't bring it in.
So, I mean, that was the least he could do. And the passive aggressiveness with which he said, yeah, he's dead. That's certainly something.
Oh, gosh. Thoughts and to his family? Yeah.
Yeah. It came across as very much, I mean, what you want me to say? Dude lived to 100. Good for him.
Yeah.
Honestly, fuck that guy.
Seriously.
He's like, I've got other things to fuck up on my own. I don't need his help.
I am doing fine, screwing up on my own. I do not need him here.
I don't need him to make this fucking up worse.
I do love the element of the internet that basically made the joke out of Nicki Minaj killed Kissinger.
Like, yeah, I saw that.
That was.
I saw that. It's just the juxtaposition of, please forgive me, Barbs, for what I'm about to say, of a ridiculous person like Nicki Minaj, like on a roof, like in she's goddamn Kill Bill or Rainbow Six, nails, weave, surgical enhancements and all, firing a gun somewhere. Like that it's the sublime juxtaposed with the ridiculous that makes it so goddamn funny.
We did end last episode by saying, please just die, and he was dead less than 24 hours later. So I'm going to chalk that up to our wishful thinking.
Yeah, seriously. That was as long as we could go in between an episode with
We toyed around with doing a special, but I just thought,
we're good.
He ain't worth that.
He don't deserve a special.
He's not coming back. So why are we doing a special?
Yeah. But now we're stuck in the situation.
If he comes back, that means he's a zombie and somebody gets to shoot him in the head.
Oh, maybe we will get Nicki Minaj shooting Kissinger, and maybe we'll get Nicki Minaj in full sniper gear shooting something.
I do love the juxtaposition between who made glowing praise of Kissinger and who didn't. Like, Bush said something nice, Condoleezza Rice said something nice, and I'm like,
of course she did.
You two were just jealous of his body count. You didn't quite make it as high as him, and you're sad. But you want to be
awfully high.
Mm-hmm. And you only destabilized about 3 countries. That's biker shit.
Child's play. Kissinger did that in one night, drunken in the street.
Drunken balls deep in a supermodel.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You can't lay every time that the United States overthrew a democratically elected government at the feet of Kissinger. But what Kissinger's...
Watch me.
Kissinger's involvement in so many of these instances shows what happens when someone's at the controls and has the level of power that he had.
Yeah.
It certainly leads me to believe that we should absolutely have a weaker executive than we do.
It's always been.
He's the midwife. Kissinger is the midwife of the concept of the imperial executive.
When I think
that's a good way to put it.
He's the midwife to the concept of the imperial executive.
When it goes beyond just him greenlighting other governments and say the United States will support you or the United States won't stand in your way in committing this genocide, to the point where he was mapping out bomb runs and covering them up by basically, what was the term that was used? Double booking the flight, or double bill. I can't remember the term they used. The double billing the flight records. I can't remember how it was put, but basically, he was the person who said, we're diverting from the flight paths into Cambodia, and he designed the flight paths of the bombing. Like, that is a level of psychopathy that it's stunning to me that a man who grew up in fleeing Nazi Germany could develop such an incredible view of state power and human life.
Well, I think you've heard me say this before, but hurt people hurt people. This, under it all, he probably would. It's probably the most humiliating thing to say about him is that under it all, he was just a hurt little boy who wanted to hurt others back because of how badly he'd been hurt. There, someone said it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a childish reaction, but that's what you'd expect.
Yeah. He's why you need to have therapy in war zones.
And it's why there's, I mean, not only are there the direct results of his actions causing deaths that you can one-to-one put to him, not delegated and through like policies that cause deaths. I mean, his directives killed people. Mm-hmm. On top of which, destabilizing Cambodia to the point that the Khmer Rouge took over and led to even further slaughter and death.
Decimating their intellectual class.
There's a cultural destruction that comes along with things like this that just never comes back. We're going to see it with Palestinians now, as their educational institutions and their government.
I think the Israeli state killed a mathematician or the head of the University of Gaza a couple days ago, and I'm like, what was the point? I'm sitting here like Cardi B. What was the reason? Was he hiding Hamas in his bathtub? What are we doing here?
I mean, the purpose.
Maybe they were behind his chalkboard. I don't know.
The purpose to me is there's. You don't get rid of Hamas by slaughtering, even if you go by their numbers, which I wouldn't, but even if you take them at face value, their numbers is 2 civilians killed for every Hamas personnel. I don't believe I don't believe there's
still not a good ratio.
That's still a
it's generous considering what we've seen.
It will just create a future Hamas.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but even if you assume they're right, like for the sake of this argument, even if you assume their numbers are 100% accurate, that is still piss poor.
Yeah,
Matt. And the thing is, a couple days ago, they let go of a missile that killed, that blew out one apartment in an apartment block, and I'm like, you couldn't have done that before. You couldn't have done that before. They're talking about flooding the tunnels with seawater. You couldn't have done that before. Let's be honest. Do you guys actually want to get rid of Hamas, or are you just like, let's create as many corpses as we can?
If they really wanted to get rid of Hamas, they would be doing special ops in Qatar. They would be doing secret police actions in Qatar. They would be targeting Hamas leadership. But Netanyahu needs Hamas because he is embattled and he needs to make sure that he is seen as necessary to protect Israel.
Well,
It's
let's call it what it is. Like, as much as it's made out that every other country in that region would love nothing more to wipe Israel off the face of the map, and I believe that's probably true. Israel would also love nothing more than to wipe the Palestinians off the map.
It's been the stated goal. I mean, after
They've
all,
been trying to do that for a while, and I think they might actually succeed, unfortunately.
Netanyahu is on record saying we just need to get rid of the Arabs. And he's said he is on record as speaking to the Likud as saying that I am the only thing that is standing between us and a Palestinian state. Not Hamas, but a state for Palestine.
Right.
It's notable that the maps that the map that he uses for Israel is just the full consumed area surrounding all of Palestinian land.
Yeah, it's that new Middle East map that he presented before the UN, and I'm like,
so you left something out there, sir?
Yeah, like that don't quite look right.
There's but I mean there is ultimately the cost of the destruction of a culture like that doesn't just affect that culture.
No, it doesn't.
It creates a blowback that we cannot foresee, but we know will end up making the world worse than just the immediate effects. Again, the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. And again, we talked about this the other day, but we don't need to take bin Laden's word that America did all of these horrible things.
No, they didn't.
His letter was littered with a bunch of horrible, paranoid, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and Western culture, anti-gay, kind of paranoia and stuff like that. But there is a point in recognizing that part of what caused September 11th was blowback from our foreign policy over the past half century or more.
Right, we're supporting Israel. Yeah.
Not just for supporting Israel, but for invading, but for camping out in Saudi Arabia for so long, for misadventures in Iraq and Kuwait before the second Gulf War. All of these things kind of contributed as sins that America committed in bin Laden's mind. And I know that in probably 20 to 40 years, somebody is going to do some bullshit and they're going to point to our inactions or our actions, depends on who you talk to, whether it's our inaction or our action right now.
It isn't, it isn't just the immediate deaths, but it's the chain. It isn't even just the erasure.
Well, like you said, the chain reaction that it creates.
So we're never going to be able to quantify the destruction of people. Like, it's just like our war in Iraq didn't just kill up to 1 million Iraqis. It's going to still yet kill more people. And it wasn't just the immediate aftermath of ISIS forming. There is going to be years down, decades down the line, and accounting for it. This is an explanation of what may happen in the future. This is not to excuse it. This is not to say we deserve it. This is going to say that it is a predictable result of perpetrating violence on people. You create extremism when you do this. And, Kissinger's actions, Netanyahu's actions, our actions create extremism somewhere.
Well, even just take, I'll give you one example. So I have a friend. I tailgate with him at Eagles games. He's a retired American soldier, served in Iraq. A lot of his friends that were there with him are no longer with us because of battling in Iraq. And he went through some PTSD about a year ago. Had a lot of issues, and I mean, look, he almost didn't make it. Like, he came close a few times, and like he's talked about it with me. So, and that's one example of how violence can affect one person that is involved in it. Like, that is one American soldier who, like, and that's just one example. And to me, the one grieving family is too many. Like, we're all gonna like, everybody's gonna lose people. We don't need to help the cause.
And then you've got people, and then you have people who fought over there and bring the pathology and the aggression home. You have people like Eddie Gallagher Spit, who he killed civilians.
Yeah.
And somehow, because he managed to be brought to trial under Trump's administration, got pardoned. Now he's helping Ron DeSantis train the Florida State Militia.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sure, along with, I'm sure Dave Grossman is involved as well.
Yeah. Let's put it like this. There's a reason sometimes I impose a curfew upon myself.
Look,
I don't like it.
You probably ain't wrong in it, though.
I don't like it. I'm not enjoying it. But
no.
There are parts of my state that I will never visit, whether the sun is up or down. In some places, even especially if the sun is down, that I will never visit because I am too damn concerned that I might go, that all that might be left of me might be my car with the keys, my car still running with the keys still in it.
Yeah.
You're a Netflix documentary in 30 years if you go out after 8 p.m.
Basically, yeah. I am a urban legend. If I go, if there, and I know that is because some of those men went over there and came back, and they are not the same person.
Right.
They have new fears. They have new paranoias.
Mm-hmm.
They have new enemies.
Look, I can tell you, my friend told me he can't sit in the back seat of a car because he was sitting in the back of a Humvee when it blew up and the driver in front of him died. Said he can't sit in the back seat of a car. Didn't even realize it, and he'd been back for several years, when all this kind of surfaced for him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it kind of occurred to him. He's like, wait, why can't I sit in the back seat of a car? Like, what's wrong? And I was sitting in the back of the Humvee with, everybody else in the car died.
There's a certain sadness, that when I think about, I am not trying to diminish the bravery of people who volunteer, who go and do it.
Not.
But I do mourn the millions upon millions who lost a part of themselves by doing it.
Yeah.
Who,
yeah.
Even if they managed to come back perfectly well adjusted, are still not properly compensated in a way that one would think they deserve, or that they were even promised.
Yeah.
I mean, the VA is legendarily a joke.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
And
both parties have made a dog's dinner of that place.
I was going to say they're both guilty of that one.
Yeah.
My only frame of reference is, the stories of actual people come back. And there's certainly plenty of fiction that can give people messed up or incorrect ideas of it, but I've always liked the allegory of First Blood, of a state using a man to commit acts that the state wants him to commit, bringing him home, abandoning him, and then setting the state against him. I don't really like the sequels to First Blood. I don't like the Rambo movies past First Blood, but I think First Blood is an incredibly poignant allegory for how we use people, for the designs of people like Henry Kissinger and George Bush and Dick Cheney. And so, the death and destruction goes beyond just the death and destruction. There's the destruction of the mind. There's the destruction of the potential. The people who went into a war like Iraq, whatever their motivations, if they came back missing a part of themselves, or something so unnecessary, truly, what part of themselves could have been whole or at peace if they hadn't gone? And I'm sure there are many who have found themselves by going. Yeah. But this is more about the destructive power of people, the destructive power of the people who run the state, like Kissinger, like Bush, like Nixon, Ford, Eisenhower, like everybody who has taken the lives of people who willingly or unwillingly, in many cases, went over and fought on the directive of somebody else. And I realize it's trite to be anti-war and to say these things like, soldiers are used and, I realize, at a certain point, we're all repeating the lyrics to War Pigs. But it's a sentiment that is easy to forget, especially when nationalistic fervor is at its peak. When we've been attacked or when there has been an attack on an ally and we are, screaming at the top of our lungs, USA, USA, and saying, it's sort of like September 11th demanded a response, and the response just kept going and going,
of course,
and then spread and drifted to Iraq for no discernible reason. Well, no logical reason. Well, it's also, whether it's religion, whether it's nationalism, whether it's just
family vendetta. Who knows?
Henry Kissinger, because of his position in so many administrations and because of how much he directly contributed to so many deaths, represents the sins of America's, executive power as a whole.
Yeah.
Fairly or unfairly. But, I mean, he killed 3 to 4 million people. So he does have a very large portion of the unnecessary dead.
Very much so.
He holds enough blame.
More than enough.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think enough. Like you said, though, like right at the start of this thing, like you didn't learn about his atrocities until after college. I consider myself to be, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I consider myself to be a relatively somewhat, sort of intelligent person.
Reasonably intelligent.
Yeah. And again, like I said, I didn't know about the atrocities until you brought it up, and I was just like, okay, I don't want to look like an idiot when she says this at the end of every episode.
Well, I mean, intelligence has nothing to do with what you know. It's just how,
how when you use what you know.
Yeah.
Because the most intelligent person in the world could not know this, and then they take the information and they process it and do a very constructive understanding of it. Or you can be like some of the people on Twitter who basically they're learning about Osama bin Laden's letter to America for the first time. Wow, this guy's so right. America sucks.
And
And it's just like, Jesus Christ, Gen Z. I mean, again, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to blame a whole generation. I realize it's just a couple of people, but
now you're sounding like an old curmudgeon. That's my job.
Now it's giving boomer. I'm just gonna say, for all the people who did not read, like, for me, it's like he's not saying anything that you didn't hear in some of something Malcolm X would have said, something Huey Huey Newton would have said. This is not new shit, guys.
This should be like the second, third, or fourth time you've heard all this. Like,
believe it or not, it's like maybe it's because we were exposed to a lot of these more radical leftist voices, and then all of a sudden, and then you read Bin Laden's letter to America after being exposed to that, you're like, okay, heard.
Where's the new information?
Heard. It's like I read it. I'm like, heard. Oh, you crazy. Oh, okay. No, now, like, it's not that you're wrong. It's just that you killed a whole bunch of people and you thought that was going to make a difference, sir.
Yeah, well, and it's just like always. Unfortunately, the people who pay the punishment for these atrocities are the people who had nothing to do with them.
That part. It's like, I'm sorry, random lady who got a face full of dust, ashes, and particulates and ended up dying of lung cancer 5 years later. Yeah, sorry to you. But hey, I mean, I'm not trying to ridicule the people who did not know that America was like this beforehand.
Oh no, I mean, we all have to learn at some time. I just
a lot of them are victim of the education system that is set up to make sure they don't learn it.
This is what I was saying the previous episode, is that if we lie to children about our history and we tell them the terrorists hate us for our freedom, which if anybody's too young to have heard that, God, that was ubiquitous.
I remember saying
they basically teach that to
and they were dumb, and luckily they were dumb. They hadn't refined their points enough they hadn't refined their points when I came through. They're saying, you can't call us an empire because if we do conquer a country, we give it back. And then I'm like, wait, then what the fuck was the Philippines?
What is New Mexico, Arizona, California, Colorado?
And I'm like, then what the fuck was Hawaii? I was
I'm just saying, if they want to take Texas back, I'm good with it. Like,
honestly, Texas could use the improvement. I said it. Be mad, stay mad, die mad about it.
I was in college.
Texas could use the improvement.
Look, I was in college.
I'm a big University of Texas fan, but
teaching kids a simplified, sanitized version of history leads them to radicalization later, because someone who is radical and paranoid and anti-Semitic and anti-gay, like Osama bin Laden, has a little bit of truth in their treatises and tract, or what the fucking Unabomber or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone learns, oh my God, they told the truth about this one thing. What else have I been lied to about by our government, by our educators, by our
parents? Always ask those questions, no matter what.
And they learn to trust the people who have snuck an element of truth into something paranoid and toxic and conspiratorial.
Well, that's kind of how evangelicalism works.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that's kind of how all extremism really.
That's kind of how evangelicalism works.
It's part of what I think the idea that this war on CRT is meant to not just teach kids that things aren't racist, we're fine, but also to make sure that they can be radicalized later by having the right people slip them a little bit of truth and say, like, here's how things really are, and shape their information, because the less context they have, the more you can control that context.
Because I mean, you're looking at things like right now with affirmative action having been slaughtered, now Asians are trying to still apply to colleges thinking, okay, now that affirmative action's gone, I should be able to get in. And then they find out that Troy Legacy the fourth, whose daddy gave the college enough money to buy like a wing of the science building that he didn't even study science. What the fuck? You know, they're finding out that no, you're still not fucking getting into college because this legacy motherfucker's getting in.
Who the hell took my place? William H. Macy's kid. What the fuck?
And it's like, black people tried to tell you, yeah, you can get rid of us, but to be quite honest, that's not going to change nothing.
Useful idiots get used, tokens get spent.
And honestly, it's like you watch this you're watching this happen, and part of you feels bad, but part of you gets a little nervous because now this means, great, another group that I've got to fight with in order to get ahead. And they don't even realize that they talk about you behind your back too. So, I mean, yeah, you can shit on me if you want, but they're going to shit on you. Does that make you whiter? Is that a bleaching cream? What are we doing here?
Oh man, I'm like 70% Irish. I don't need to get any whiter.
Yeah, but you don't need to get any whiter. You don't need to get any whiter.
I'll burn in the moonlight out here.
Yeah, you don't need to get any whiter, but listen, there's a reason why whitening cream sells so hard around the world.
Look, I have 5% thereabouts Middle Eastern North African in my DNA, so I feel comfortable saying. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna be like, that's because you're. I was about to read like, that's because you're Italian. Do not make me do that monologue of. Don't make me do Dennis Hopper's monologue from True Romance. I'm gonna hurt your entire feelings when I do it.
Nah, I don't know. I think
I'll just laugh if you do that to me. I think it'll be great. My grandfather's
ancestors probably emigrated from like North Africa or something, you know. But like that's like so far down the line. It's like
I know, but it's like
not even as much as that. Not even as much as that KKK guy who got his DNA results read on TV and then had like 12% sub-Saharan Africa, and everyone started
12. That's a lot. Like, only person I can think of that probably had more was Joe Magniello, because it turns out Joe Magniello isn't Italian at all.
What?
He's not, baby. He is German, Armenian, and wait for it, black. Do you want to know? And the Magniello came from the black relative. You want to know what happens?
Italians.
Also what happens is, think about it. It's the turn of the century. You
Ethiopia, are Eritrea.
That is true.
Sicily.
But it's also the fact that if you're coming up from the South and you're a child of an unsanctioned liaison, a child of a rape, a child that has a past, and you need to blend in quickly, it absolutely makes sense for you to pick up a Italian or a Portuguese last name.
Just throw a vowel on the end, you're good.
Basically, throw a vowel on the end, because you're not light enough quite to pass as white, but you're just light enough, and the hair is just straight enough to pass as Italian. I'm wondering how many families in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania, if they actually bothered to test it out, would have to swap out that red, green, and white for red, green, and black.
I see. It's funny because like my grandfather and grandmother on my father's side, they were both relatively darker skinned Italians. But I inherited absolutely none of it.
None of that.
I was going to say, I know you don't got that.
I am white like the reflection of a full moon. I am white like the kind of like butter you get that's like really, really cheap at the dollar store and doesn't have
that dollar store whipped butter.
Yeah.
So you're like me. Somehow at the Eagles game on Sunday when it was pouring ass rain, somehow I still got sunburn.
I am white in the
I'm kidding. I didn't actually get something.
Okay, because I'm like, I was gonna have so many questions.
I
Like,
am
does
the
your
kind
wife use your backside as a reading lamp?
The beacons of Gondor are lit.
Has your wife ever used your backside or your back, if it doesn't have hair on it, as a
These
reading
are
lamp?
asking way too personal questions that I'm comfortable answering, but
You can bounce the light off of me and reflect into another part of the room. By the way,
I will say I got way too much hair on my head. You know,
you
no
might
baldness up
notice that
here.
you might notice that I am better lit today than I have been in months, and it's because I finally found. Who knew that light bulbs had so many different size bases?
Yes.
Well,
Oh, I work at a big box hardware store. I knew that.
you know how goddamn hard it is to not only find an intermediate base light bulb, but to find an intermediate base light bulb that is only yay big and not this big.
I nearly married a woman who worked at a big box hardware store. I admit I kind of knew that. Sorry.
This is
Yeah, dude. Walk down the aisle of the Home Depot.
Yeah.
Aisle 1 in Home Depot. Just
Oh yeah, no, it will hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But do you know how long it took me to find this? Just this.
At this point,
medium size.
just
Dude,
save.
why didn't you just say? Hey, Eric?
Because
could
I
you help
didn't
me
know
out?
what
I
a
need this.
candelabra base was, Eric.
The one time I could have been useful.
We have like a bunch of lights in the house. The house has vaulted ceilings, so I vaguely know what a candelabra base. Vaguely know what a candelabra base is. I'm sorry. You should have said something. One of us would have been able to help you.
We could have. Look, there aren't many things I can help with around the house. Like, I'm a blithering idiot on most of those things. That one, I could have helped.
So you're saying that even a blithering idiot could do what I couldn't do?
That's not what he said.
No, I said I'm a blithering idiot on most other things. There are plenty of things that you can do around your
I
house.
heard what you said. I
would be totally useless with.
Loud and clear.
No. But what I'm saying is, you would make me look like a fool with 90% of the things that you do around there. That's just one of those times that I would have made you look like one. My one victory.
Not buying it. No, you're trying to say.
I'm just saying.
Love you.
Love you too.
Not but love.
So let's since we spent 50 minutes talking about celebrating Kissinger's death, but then talking about the heavy shit like, the cost of human life and all that stuff.
Oh, shit. I'm almost out of beer.
Briefly in the same vein, briefly about Guyana, and then we will move on to something that's actually funny and lighthearted.
Guyana, people really are sleeping on the fact that Guyana has a potential of becoming really ugly.
Maduro is like I was kind of stunned by the idea like this. It's like hearing about how was like, oh, by the way, the Falklands are ours. I'm bringing that
it's like
back.
It's like the British. It's like all of a sudden the British show up and you're like, wait, what? How did they get involved in this?
Still coming? What the hell? Didn't you guys die off like 400 years ago?
What the fuck?
But seriously, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but it's the idea that right now, the United States and Great Britain do have a chance to look at Maduro and say, stay back. You stay back and stop acting like that.
Did you just dog whisper Maduro?
Yes, I did.
That's awesome. All right, we good.
Yeah, like the United States and Great Britain have a wonderful chance to go. But right now, the honest truth is this. The United States is preoccupied with 14 other things. And Great Britain could be petty and in its feelings right now. Because the last time anyone from the Crown was in Guyana, there were protests and it was hilarious. Don't get me wrong. And I don't think the Guyanese regret it for a second. But Do I think King Chuck the Cubed is that petty? Yes. Yes, I do.
This is
I
a man who
100% do.
move his own pen from out of his own way and doesn't put his own toothpaste on his own toothbrush. So, is the man petty?
So I honestly do believe, and I honestly do worry for the Guyanese, and I do worry for the Guyanese American, the Guyanese that are scattered throughout the Guyanese diaspora, which includes a good chunk of people in the United States, and that of course means a good chunk of people in Miami, who are right now wondering, is anybody going to step in since Venezuela, which since Venezuela is deciding to be a little bit imperialist right now.
This is a prime opportunity for Biden to come in and regain some of his lost territory with voters of color.
Honestly, it would be a smart thing to even just say for him to get to even be on a press spray and say, by the way, Maduro knows better and he needs to act that way. I don't know what he thinks he's going to get by trying to take over a corner of Guyana. Guyana's been its own thing for well over 100 years and change. What the fuck? And if he can do that, that will be one of those few things that will make people go, okay. The thing is, in South Florida, we do have some Guyanese that live here, but you want to know one of the larger groups that do live here? Venezuelans. And because of that, I really don't see the local groups making enough of a stink. I don't see them being as aghast that their country would decide to dip its toe back into the waters of imperialism like this. This is going to be very frustrating to watch. As somebody who's from the Caribbean, watching another Caribbean nation mostly black nation get squashed by a more Spanish power.
I don't know, with Venezuela's isolation and the embargoes, those haven't been lifted, the oil purchase embargoes.
As far as I know, no, they have not yet.
So with their isolation and their lack of trading, I don't understand what power and momentum they could even have for engaging in an imperial.
To me, I think it's just, I'm going to be honest, I think Maduro's bored and he knows the people are bored and he needs to do something. He's got a touch of the Putinitis and he's doing the most.
Is it just like
people get bored? Just put a football game on. You'll be entertained.
Huh?
Well, I was just going to say, is it just sort of a wag the dog sort of thing? He needs something to
That's, I think, why. I think that's probably why. The honest truth is, I think that's probably what the United States and Great Britain are waiting on. They are waiting on him to be like, okay, is he just talking shit? Is he just, como mierda, just sitting on his ass talking shit, or is he actually going to do this? But I'm sorry, this is the fact that he even thinks that he can put his lips together to act like this and put it to a vote to the people. I'm sorry. That is disturbing to me. And I mean, it's a precedent. What's happening now is that other Caribbean countries are looking at this, and other Caribbean countries who are mostly black are looking at their Hispanic neighbors like, what the fuck are you going to do? Are you seriously going to do this? So I'm kind of uncomfortable watching this kind of play out. So, I mean, I was already kind of uncomfortable watching the Israeli state spring a whole, like, what the fuck, springing their full force of what the fuckery.
I remember once upon a time George Bush brought up Pottery Barn, and you break it, you bought it, regarding
yeah.
And it occurs to me that maybe the goddamn French should get up off their ass and like do something.
Well, where they're talking about moving into isn't French Guyana. It's British Guyana.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 2.
Well,
so.
I'll tell you how little I know about it.
Yeah. Don't feel bad. Yeah. It's
well, you know
like
what?
a lot of
Still get off their fucking ass. That's
yeah. It's a case where you can just be like, you took a lot of shit from them. It's like you want to turn to Europe and be like, you took a lot of shit from them, and you got half the population expatriated over there. Maybe you could do something. Just a little something. Just thinking. Just
could help out a little bit. That'd be nice.
You know, you come, you take shit. You know, could you at least like do stuff around the house, build up the back fence? But no, you don't. You don't even put in
you
the.
Know what line
you don't
I'm
even
about
put
to say,
the.
right, Ren?
What are you about?
You
to
know
say?
what line?
Oh no!
Otherwise you'd fuck me, Larry. But would you respect me in the morning?
Literally how, but I'm sorry. That's literally how a lot of the Caribbean feels right now. Like, bruh, are you even going to do anything? No. Okay, so I guess you're gonna fuck me again, and you're not gonna respect me in the morning. Okay, fine, get out.
Which, by the way, Red, you have to watch. If you have HBO Max, I stumbled on the Sopranos podcast show hosted by Bobby Bacala and Christopher. Fan-freaking-tastic.
I still think people don't give Michael Imperioli the respect he deserves.
Michael Imperioli is a freaking genius.
I
fucking love that man.
How angry I was that the TV series for. Does anybody remember the Lincoln Child, the Bone Collector? They made it into a TV series.
Did they?
And Michael Imperioli was Stiletto, Officer Stiletto, and it lasted one season, was canceled, and I was.
Oh, that's why I remember it.
Yeah.
All I know is this: I will always never forgive the directors of the Ghostbusters movie. I understand what they were doing in casting fucking Chris Hemsworth as the clerical, but I will go to my grave thinking the movie would have actually worked a whole lot better with Michael Imperioli as the clerical. I'm sorry, maybe because
yes.
I will go to my grave thinking they should have done that. Because let's be honest, Michael Imperioli in a forgive me, guinea tee and suspenders with the glasses perched, and him doing the pointing and would have been.
Oh my God, yes.
People, I'm sorry. It would have worked.
Look, I can close my eyes right now and see it.
Yeah, Dallas. Michael Imperioli has also turned into quite the silver fox.
That too.
Like, there's an element.
I would.
He's giving me hope that my future is pretty bright still.
Like I said, he could get it.
He needs to be cast as this sort of like elder statesman role, like a serious. Like he needs to get. He needs
to start getting his elder statesman flowers.
Yes.
Expeditiously. Like
I
we finally are
a role like he needs to be the precinct captain in a police drama. He can't just be like he's got to be. Yeah. He's graduated to a point where he needs to be the father figure, the mentor figure.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. We are finally honoring Giancarlo Esposito. We need to start giving him them Giancarlo Esposito roles. I'm sorry. I said what I said.
Oh, I get it now. Giancarlo Esposito is the organized crime boss. Michael Imperioli is the precinct captain, but they grew up together.
Would watch all 6 seasons and the TV movie. Would watch all 6 seasons and the TV movie. We deserve. There has been enough Italian and Black cross humping for this to be real. Make it happen, y'all.
They were foster brothers, even.
Still would watch.
Oh my God!
Would watch. Would binge.
Seriously, I'll watch it all one weekend.
No, I really even though
after football season, though, guys, that's what I binge watch.
Yeah.
Even though it only lasted for one season, I would recommend watching the Bone Collector TV series. Well, I think it's Lincoln Rhyme, the Bone Collector.
That sounds like something I'd actually have to sit down and watch, as opposed to something that I could run in the background like Wipeout.
Yeah, it was one of the big, like it in many ways made me think of Elementary with Johnny Lee Miller. There
were good things about Elementary. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
As a 43-year-old man, I'm going to need you to remind me of this, like when the off season comes for football. I'll check it out.
Elementary was the best. The best.
It was slightly better. It was slightly better than Sherlock. It was better than Sherlock.
Anything is better than fucking Sherlock.
Oh my god! Listen, maybe it's the inner colonialism survivor in me, but I'm sorry, I can't hate on my boy Benadryl Cumberchain or whatever the fuck his name is.
Bag of Dicks Hunger Games.
Listen, we ridicule this man's name because we love him.
We do love him.
A lot of love.
He does look too look, I'm sorry, but they're not allowed to make another Hellboy movie unless they cast him as Abe Sapien.
Benedict Cumberbatch is Abe Sapien?
Yeah, this can't go on.
You know what?
Abe Sapien.
Okay, okay. I am willing to buy that for $1. I mean, I love Doug Jones, but Doug needs some time off. I love Doug.
Doug Jones in What We Do in the Shadows is probably having him have a speaking role and being.
I don't know if I ever want to hear Doug Jones speak. I don't think God intended for him to talk.
Do you have Hulu?
Yes.
I need you to watch all 5 available seasons of What We Do in the Shadow. It is, if you've seen the movie, it is better than the movie.
Okay. So in other words, this is
my TV on and search for this, because otherwise I won't.
That's the case that you're making for Doug Jones should be allowed to speak.
Yes, because he you know what? I won't even spoil it. You'll know him when you see him because you always know him. I'm sure.
Yeah, you always know Doug Jones when you see him, just like how you always know Troy James when you see him, or how you always know Jeffrey Combs when you see him.
Fuck. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard that, my Hulu firing up, because I was just like, all right, I'll look for it now.
It is the 20-year anniversary of the Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, coming out pretty soon. And the reason I bring this up when you mentioned Jeffrey Combs is because Jeffrey Combs played one of my favorite roles in a movie ever, which was Dammers in The Frighteners. And
yeah, him and his weird little Hitler hair.
By the way, just so you know, all I had to do was type in WH and it came up the first. I
guess that's Hulu, I guess, trying to tell everybody that no, this shit's actually good.
Yeah, What We Do in the Shadows is a necessary. You need to watch everything there is. Harvey Guillen is one of the.
I love Harvey. I admit.
All right, I just added it to my list of stuff.
Most of what I love from Harvey is actually from Boulet Brothers Dracula.
He was a nifty little supporting role in The Magicians, but he didn't get enough time on screen. What We Do in the Shadows corrects that. It gives him the lead / supporting role he was born to play.
Okay. Like I said, I'm willing. Like I said, I like Harvey based on the few interactions I've seen him have with, gay horror icons. So I'm here for it.
And if you have, as long as we're recommending series, do either of you have Apple TV Plus?
No, not yet.
No.
If they're offering they've got to
be offering one of those $199.
You know that Steve Jobs included in his will never to have a special on goddamn Apple TV.
I got 3 months free when I started it, and I kept it because there's so much amazing shit.
All right, then I guess when my when my contract comes up with Verizon, I better start beating them over the head for Apple TV.
Oh yeah, I'm with T-Mobile, and the only reason I even still have Netflix is because it's covered with T-Mobile, because I would not still have Netflix if
I have Paramount Plus because I have Walmart Plus because I don't like to go outside.
Paramount Plus is certainly a streaming service.
Oh, there are at least 2 or 3 shows I stream like that.
I will give you this. Evil is a nifty show.
Yes, thank you. Evil is great.
That's fair. That is fair because
Michael
not
Emerson
just because
great in everything.
Well, yeah.
Speaking of which, he's going to be in the new Amazon Prime video series Fallout.
I still can't believe they bought.
Obviously, you both know I have Amazon Prime.
I also have Amazon Prime. I've been hanging on to Amazon Prime purely because, you know what? I don't really have a reason. Okay, there's some they have some classic horror channels and horror films that my roommate.
I guarantee you, if I give you 3 guesses, you'll figure out why I have Amazon Prime.
Is this something to do with wrestling?
Thursday Night Football, which is probably
second guess. Awesome, good job.
I mean, Thursday Night Football. I think that was brilliant, and it was a brilliant and frustrating move by the NFL. That really kind of helped stratify what was once an egalitarian watching experience. You know, it used to be that if you had a working TV, you could at least catch football. Now they're like, no, you have to have streaming to catch.
They're trying to do that for my wrestling too.
Well, there's a reason why, I don't have Paramount Plus and I don't have Disney Plus. It's just there's too goddamn many, and
fair.
I only have Disney Plus because it comes with my Hulu plus. I'm sure there's 5 or 6.
I admit I have Disney purely because I like some of the old cartoon shorts.
Yes.
The Book of Boba Fett and Baymax.
It's all
and National Geographic.
There are not
every time around Christmas I gotta watch the Ebenezer Scrooge, the Disney version.
There is not enough
and Muppets content.
There is not enough non-franchise content.
I mean, the Muppets are like a franchise that, to me, every time they murder it, I'm sad about it, but I realize that they kind of got to kill it every couple of years in order to make it, in order to keep it fine. They have to kill it every couple of years just to make sure the corpse doesn't get too rotted.
But Apple TV Plus has so much great science fiction.
That's what I keep hearing, and I need to satisfy my Lee Pace issues because there's only
just renewed Foundation for a 3rd season.
There you go. That's why I need to deal with my Lee Pace issues because *Halt and Catch Fire* is not enough for me. *Halt and Catch Fire* was not enough for me. I got to channel my inner nerd. I lived for Lee Pace's, like Joseph Macmillan. Mwah. He is the evil bisexual. He is the evil 80s bisexual that you never thought you'd ever be like, no.
Speaking of evil bisexuals, Moms for Liberty has recently but
no. Fuck Bridget Ziegler, but I'm gonna be honest. This situation illustrates what bisexual women go through writ large. This situation is literally the bi-female experience. It really is. Yo, it is every bit the experience. You will hook up with a couple just to get with the woman. Then the dude acts all irrational about it. Either he does some skullduggery and then you and the girl fall out of touch and then you never speak to each other and then you find out that it was him all along, or he gets weird and irrational and then he starts obsessing over you. Nah, that shit hit way too close to home. Cause I know people who've been through that shit.
The other sort of bisexual sort of thing that came the other day that drove me nuts was, and granted, it's just one experience, but it's just so commonplace, was when Billie Eilish basically said, I thought everyone just knew I also like women. She likes men, she likes women. And I'm assuming possibly she likes, an assortment, on the spectrum of gender expression and everything like that. But either way, the first comments I start seeing is like women going, she's just going to end up with a man anyway. I'm like, bitch, that's what bisexual means. You don't It's not that it doesn't count unless you end up with like
a
a
woman.
same-sex relationship. Like
Or
bisexual
it does.
women end up with men. Bisexual men end up with women.
Women
And
all
like
the time.
it just fuck off with that shit.
It's just that the majority of the world is straight, so please never ever be shocked if a bisexual person ends up with another cisgendered. If a bisexual cisgendered person ends up with a person of the opposite sex. Sure, we all would love to get with gorgeous genderqueer androgynes of whatever physical type we desire, but that's not how the world works. Trust me, I would love to get with Chris Evans because he looks amazing in drag, but it's not going to happen. No, Chris Evans
is somebody
looks amazing in drag.
I did not find attractive until Captain America, because I always thought he looked weird, and like as he got older, he looked more attractive to me. Like in Scott Pilgrim, I thought this guy just looks like a douchebag.
Well, they put on makeup
That was
on him
his
and
character,
to accentuate the douchebagginess.
Then
Like
it's
not
great
a
acting.
You were supposed to think he was a douchebag. Like,
exactly. I'm gonna be honest. I actually fell for Lee Pace when he was playing Calpurnia Adams. I had some thoughts and feelings about that. I was like, yeah, it's unfortunate they would not cast a trans actress to play a trans person, but good Lord. I'm sorry if a 6'2" person asks, well, in reality, Lee Pace is 6'5", but let's be realistic. Yeah. Amy Adams famously said of him, "Oh, Lee Pace, he's a lot of boy." I'm like,
this may be the Prosecco talking, but speaking of Lee Pace, whatever happened to Lee Evans?
whom?
Goofy ass guy who was Norm from There's Something About Mary, but he was also the ship's one of the high ranking officers in The Fifth Element in the cruise ship, and he was also the younger brother in Mouse Hunt. Just I'm thinking guys like named Lee. He was a comedian, Lee Evans. He's just a goofy guy, but he was like attractive because he was funny and also just charming.
Oh, Lee Evans. Yeah, no. He basically just retired, actually.
Good for him.
Good for him.
He took the bag and left, which I'm not even mad at. I am never mad when you take the bag and leave. When you take the bag and say, "Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was fun. I'm going to leave before my teeth fall out of my head and my soul gets taken. You have a wonderful day, gentlemen."
I like that Gene Hackman and Jack Nicholson were basically like, "I'm retired," and they stayed retired.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna get an unretiring from them.
Let me tell you guys, whenever I retire, ain't gonna be no unretiring for me.
Will we ever get to retire?
No, we're millennials.
Yeah, we don't retire. Sorry. We tried.
We're the elder millennials. We're,
Well, so when I retire, that means I died, so I'm gonna unretire. So I didn't say nothing wrong. What you got now?
For a while we thought, hey, maybe we won't have enough savings to retire as early as our parents did, but Social Security will kick in. And then we realized Social Security will probably only be paying out like 66% by the time we retire. So we're just not retiring, are we?
No.
I'm glad I got a career I can do sitting down instead of like doing the physical stuff.
I'm glad I'm in a career that I could potentially just do from home sitting down.
Because my knees click now when I like carry heavy stuff up and down the stairs. So I don't think I could be pushing and pulling and hoisting 50-pound bags of cat litter like I used to.
I don't know if, like I said,
my feet always hurt. Like
I believe
right now, sitting on my ass, my feet still hurt.
Are they throbbing too?
Oh, all day, every day.
Facts. Yeah, no, I did retail, and then I returned briefly. I mean, will I be doing burlesque for the rest of my natural life? Possibly. There are still people who are willing to pay to see that shit, so might as well.
well, hey, if you want to do something other than retail, you could always do what I did and borrow $150,000 at 7% interest. Ugh, God.
No, I have seen student loans. I am not. No, I'm gonna just pray. I'm just gonna since I live in
Thanks,
this
Biden.
since I live in South Florida where OnlyFans is king. Oh yeah.
Speaking of South Florida, did you see the trailer
Yes.
for GTA 6?
It needs a knockoff Publix for it to be real. Give us a knockoff Publix. That's all we need. Give us a Publix or a Publini. Just give us a knockoff Publix.
I feel like with Rockstar Games that would be pronounced Pubix.
I don't care. I do not care. We need a knockoff Publix if we gonna be doing this Vice City shit right.
I love there were like two different things about alligators. Like
that's fair. No, that's real. That's fair. That's not inaccurate. It's not inaccurate.
I really love that Blue Oyster Cult did an entire song about Florida Man. Like that. That's my favorite thing about the whole Florida Man mythos.
I mean, honestly, Killer Eddie Gallagher's one of us now, so what you gonna do? Yeah, I'm scared if I ever run into him, I'm gonna call him Killer Eddie, and then he's just gonna kill me, and it's gonna be okay because I'm black.
No, they don't call him Nice Guy Eddie.
No, they don't. Not to his face. Well, they call him Nice Guy Eddie to his face, but I bet you ain't nobody call him Killer.
Behind his back, yeah.
Yeah, behind his back, I bet you everybody call him Killer Eddie.
So let's talk about the one last thing I think we said we would talk about, which was the new smoking, or as Trump calls it, smocking gun against Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Payments directly from China.
You mean all 5 figures? All
just south of it.
All just south of $5,000 to his son's company.
Just because he hadn't been vice president for 2 years and wasn't working in government and hadn't declared he was running for a government position, and just because it was $4,000 from an account that his son owned to pay him back for a car that he helped his son pay for, doesn't mean that the money wasn't coming from communist China.
Okay, I have a feeling that Hunter would probably be able to address that in the open hearing that he offered to give.
But I mean, the money's coming from China.
Okay, so when are we going to talk about all the patents and shit that Ivanka got?
No, we're not talking about
exactly.
Her mic. But like
exactly. So honestly, I mean, listen, at this point, I am shocked. I have a feeling that if they were to hold Hunter Biden down and do a full cavity search, they'd probably find some poor, scared Republican intern hiding in his sigmoid colon, waiting for some bullshit to go down.
Like, here's the thing, and I have said it over and over again. Hunter Biden is a fuck up, and if his name weren't Biden, he would not be making millions of dollars per year on the board of an oil company.
Facts.
I think it should be illegal for the family of federal employees to work for, foreign companies outside of the U.S. I mean, if they worked for a foreign company that is working in the U.S., that's, you can't.
That's different.
You can't prevent the freedom of people to work for who they want to. But in general, I think there should be limitations on it. But the fact is, it's not illegal. And you can't just start punishing people for things that weren't legal at the time. It's the reason why Tom DeLay got away
with what he did. Yeah.
Because it wasn't illegal at the time.
It
was shady as fuck.
Facts.
But it wasn't illegal.
But yeah, it's the idea that at this point, like I said, I have a feeling if we were to do a cavity search, we would find some poor Republican congressional intern hidden in his sigmoid colon. We'd find it. We'd find a whole
lot of Republicans with daddy issues who are really pissed that Joe Biden loves his son unconditionally.
That part. I think that's what it is. I think it comes down to the fact that that they have never seen the tale of the prodigal son enacted in real life, and now they're learning that they hate it.
Like
they are now seeing that the prodigal son is the tale of the prodigal son is real. It isn't just a tale. It's happening right in front of their face, and it pisses them off. And they're mad. They're big mad.
Well, because they hate their dads. Like,
it's not as much they hate their dads. They just hate they hate Joe Biden. They hate the way Joe Biden dads.
Conditional love.
Yeah, they hate the way hate the way that Joe Biden dads. They hate the fact that despite being a fuck up, and Joe loves Hunter enough to let him go his own way, and then when he fucks it up, has the door open and says, "Hey, listen, sport." And you know Joe Biden's the type of dad who calls his kids sport sometimes. You know he is. Says, "Hey, sport, listen.
Cut the malarkey.
Cut the malarkey. You know I love you. You can do better. You are better. You are Biden. Come inside." And they hate that because sinners should be punished, and Hunter is a sinner and he needs to be punished. And it's not happening. Not as long as Joe Biden's alive.
I mean, it is part of, after all, you look at the language that fascists use, and it is the language of retribution, it is the language of vengeance, it is the language of punishment. It is not the language of rehabilitation, it is not the language of compassion, it is not the language of forgiveness.
It is not the language of restoration. It's not the language of restoration. They do not believe in restoration. They believe in retribution. And they see the perceived slights against people like Sarah Palin. And then they decide they are going to absolutely dismantle and dehumanize and defeminize Michelle Obama as retribution.
Yeah.
This is who they are fundamentally. They are the angry Old Testament God that just needs their pint of blood to get through the day.
Yeah, they need their pound of flesh. And
I mean, it's like, but the thing is, as much as they want to admit it, they are still going by the law, the idea of the law. They know that there are people that the law binds but does not protect, and the law protects that does not but doesn't bind. Just as we're watching Mini MAGA Mike, Speaker of the House, ye great closet case. I'm sorry. I normally don't call somebody a closet case, but he is.
You talked about the people who the law does not bind, but what was the phrasing you used?
The law protects, but does not bind, but binds, but the law doesn't protect.
Before I went into work this morning, I stopped at a Wegmans, and there was a little Mazda with an Ultra MAGA bumper sticker, but it also had a "Don't Tread on Me" bumper sticker. And I think an initial reaction is to say, I mean, MAGA is a very hands-on,
they're
kind of.
They're speaking very literally. Don't tread on me, but the law better motherfucking tread on you.
That's just it.
That's what
an initial reading would be to say those are contradictory, but it is not contradictory.
No, it's not. It's not contradictory at all. Because face it, if I, with whatever girl I was dating, were to walk by with, if she had a child, and my partner were to give me a peck on the cheek, he'd want the whole world to come down on my head.
I mean,
but he's probably taken a juvenile relative of theirs to Hooters and not said a goddamn thing.
I do believe that anybody in Florida who sees someone who is a minor at a Hooters needs to call Child Protective Services. And
I often think about that because there's a Hooters about There's a Hooters about 2 miles from my house, but I refuse to go in there. I'd rather go into the strip club around the corner instead.
Florida
Because
has more Hooters locations than any other state.
Well, yeah, that's because Hooters started in Clearwater, Florida. We're not proud of it, but here we are. We're sorry. We really are.
Florida, we're sorry.
Yeah, basically at this point, considering as I watch Ron DeSantis's campaign collapse, I'm enjoying it, but I'm kind of enjoying it the way a battered wife enjoys watching her husband's ass get beat at the bar. Like, yeah, beat his ass, but honestly, I already know my ass gonna get beat when I get home. So, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy it for what it is.
Dear DNC, you fucked up in not putting money behind Andrew Gillum and Kat
It
Denton.
really did.
And it just, these are people who, if the money were there, along with Mondaire Jones and several others, if you would just put the money behind vulnerable and unlikable candidates like Ron DeSantis, like Marco Rubio,
look at John Fetterman. They put money behind John Fetterman, and he's unlikable.
Fucker.
I'm sorry, baby.
That man just.
I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry, dog, baby.
There is only one reason.
Not a lot of people like John Fetterman. The only reason people really like John Fetterman is because he is standing on business as far as Senator Mendez is concerned. That's the only reason people like him. That's the only reason why people putting up with his shit.
I know that the Pennsylvania voters of color were like, we're voting for him because his opponent's Dr. Oz, but we haven't forgotten the shotgun thing.
Exactly. I listen, I haven't listened to enough of the Philadelphia contingent of Black Twitter to know. Yeah, that's basically it. And they are appreciating that he's standing on business as far as Senator Menendez goes. They appreciate that. That's like, okay, that's cute. We like that. But do they actually like Senator Fetterman? Fuck no. I know more Black people that like John Tester than Senator Fetterman.
John Tester is a known entity. When he stands on Blue Dog Democrat principles and disappoints the Democratic Party, you can't say, "Wow, what a shock."
Yeah, we know who the motherfucker John Tester is. Like, I know I'm not the only person who's like, I don't even live in Montana. Do I give him $5 every cycle? Yes.
I am going to be donating to whoever primaries John Fetterman. Obviously, whoever wins the primary gets my vote, even if it's John fucking Fetterman.
Yeah, but still, you're gonna at least give it a shot. You're gonna give it a shot.
I am absolutely going to donate to whoever primaries him in 2028.
And give to Josh Shapiro's re-election, because honestly, Josh Shapiro is that motherfucker.
Josh Shapiro is definitely a moderate to centrist Democrat.
Yeah, but he
is also a fucking effective executive who has managed to take a state that does have a very purple contingent.
Exactly.
And really say to these people,
he that dude. Like, Shapiro's that dude. I wish I had some Josh Shapiro. I'm sorry. The fuck, bro?
Everyone is going to remember how he took charge with, like, I-95 collapsing was his 9/11, basically.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. He probably gives Pete a chubby, okay?
Fixing I-95 that fast, I am sure Pete Buttigieg was on the phone with him and was, like, effusive in his praise and was thankful because it reflects well on Pete, too.
Yeah, and like I said, he's that dude who makes everybody. He is probably annoyingly moderate, but he makes everybody in the Pennsylvania Democratic Party look good. So I mean, honestly, he that dude. You should
imagine
give him
if there were a Buttigieg Shapiro ticket.
I could see people just being like, know what, I'm here for it. Clock the fuck in. I could see at that point, I could see Wilton Manors literally rolling out the red carpet and people on their knees. I said what I said. It would be lit. It would be lit.
I'd be here for that second.
Yeah. No one would be mad. No one would be mad.
I think Kamala Harris is in a thankless position being Joe Biden's vice president because
I think also she's in a thankless position being the first woman of non-white woman. So it's like not only did they twofered her, it like is she in a glass cliff position? That's hard to say.
I absolutely think she was in a glass cliff position because it's granted, Hillary Clinton was
let's put it like this. I'm going to put my faith in her until I can't anymore. It's a really ugly position to be in, but I'm going to do it.
I mean, my negatives with her are the same negatives I have with Amy Klobuchar. They're the same negatives I have with Pete Buttigieg. They're the same negatives I have with any Democrats. They're creatures of corporate capitalism and whatever. That's going to be the problem with everyone who makes it to that level. In the primary, I'm going to support, but it's going to fucking end up being the people like Klobuchar, like Kamala Harris, like Pete Buttigieg, who get the position. They're not the people I want there, but the general election is not about the people you want. It's about being against the wall, and you have only two fucking options, and they're the only two options you have. Otherwise, you're dead. So, whichever one of those three, and I'm sure, sorry, not one of those. I think
there's something that people need to
It's going to be Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, and I also think that it is going to be Josh Shapiro.
I think Josh Shapiro
in the election, but he's going to end up being the vice president of whoever.
I think it's going to be. I think Josh Shapiro is going to definitely be in the conversation. There is no question. He has done too goddamn good for the people of Pennsylvania for him not to be in the conversation. He is too valuable to the people of Pennsylvania not to be in the conversation. To act like he's not going to act like it's like people to act like there isn't at least one mega donor quietly putting aside money for a Harris Shapiro ticket, as frustrating and annoying as that is. They are looking at that in 28. They are kind of photoshopped. There is at least 2 or 3 big money donors who are quietly squirreling away their cash for it. As much as frustrating as that is, we just need to accept that that's a thing that's going. That's a thing that's on the list.
I'm going to admit, as far as like public and outward facing political positions and what people say, if I take them at their word, Pete Buttigieg is the one whose political positions I align more with.
Oh yeah.
And people like I said, I have a feeling it's going to be either Harris. It could be either Harris Shapiro, Harris Buttigieg, which I mean, that's the one that mentally I'm prepared. I have mentally prepared myself from Harris Buttigieg from
election day.
An Indian woman and a gay man.
People need to understand the Democratic Party is not going to ever run a white male ticket ever fucking again. They are never going to do it again. It is they realize that the demographics are not in the cards for that shit anymore.
Well, the last one was what, Carrie and
Edwards.
Carrie Edwards, yeah.
They realize they are
Edwards. What a joke! Jesus Christ. God.
That was in our ancient bad days. We saw that it was trash. We saw that ticket was not going to go anywhere.
Look, I voted for Bush in that election. I'm not proud of it.
And listen, none of us are proud of it. Nobody. Nobody's proud of that. But we all knew Edwards.
I don't know the last time I've been proud of a vote I've casted.
Yeah, I mean, we've all either been high or accepting. High, drunk, or accepting our fate.
Well, I usually got drunk afterwards, but yeah, I get your point.
I remember I voted for McCain in 2008, and then after Obama won, Eric, you and we had a phone conversation. And we said, a lot of our friends, our fellow friends on the right, who,
Well, the real reason I voted McCain, but we can't talk about that on air.
We're very, we're very despondent over it. When you and I were both like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I remember the time, like watching and realizing that the Republican Party was not interested in being serious. What that was like 2008. I'm like, y'all not serious. Y'all not are interested in being serious.
They made an attempt to be serious for
Yes,
like a month after 2012.
Yeah, they gave us Romney and Ryan, and I'm like, okay, this is your attempt at being serious. I accept your attempt at being serious.
I didn't vote
accept
for
it.
them. I voted for Gary Johnson because fuck all those people.
Like I said, I was emotionally ready.
I voted for Brock in 12.
But in 12, I voted for Romney, and that was my last ditch of, okay, you're being serious, and I accept this. And
again,
then
you'll get a kick out of this, Ren. You know who talked me into voting for Barack Obama? My dad.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Your dad was a Republican, but he liked Obama.
Exactly. Yeah.
Reminds me, my mother is very conservative, but she voted for Bill Clinton in 1992. I think part of that was, the Democratic Party was making a right turn, and they were being tough on time, and they were they were pushing against Bush raising taxes, and
which is a smart move.
It was, and it was just, but after 2012,
yeah,
I regretted my vote. I really did. I regretted it and I regretted it for some basic bitch ass reasons, but I really started to regret my vote because it was like, I basically said it was okay for the Republican Party to just absolutely shit on women if they disagreed. They just did. I co-signed that. Is that something I should have done?
But
that's all right.
I know that you're reflecting on what you felt at the time, but ultimately, this is not me talking to you, but talking to anybody who feels like that, so much.
Yeah.
It's just that the vote for the president is not co-signing shit. It is controlling the crash.
That's what I ended up voting for. That's what really was like, okay, no, that's it. No, I'm voting for Hillary. I can't do this.
It was like Hillary for me was one of those things where after she tried to run in 2008, I was thinking to myself, oh, there's not a goddamn way in hell I would ever vote for Hillary Clinton.
And then Trump runs in 2016 against her, and I'm like, you're testing me. You're testing me, aren't you?
I just was like, you know what?
Like a big man?
I was just like, the one thing that would never make me vote for Hillary. God damn. Yo, I was mad. I was like, I started side-eyeing everyone and everything after that day.
My vote wasn't signed for her, and I still fucking hate her. And
I remember saying, if it's Hillary Clinton and anybody other than Trump on the Republican side, I'll vote for the Republican. If it's Trump and anybody but Hillary, I'll vote for the Democrat. And I'm like, if it's Hillary and Trump, fucking, I'm not voting. But then they did. I'm like, I have to. God damn it.
For me, it was just the more I learned. It was like I didn't like Trump to begin with. But it was like the more I learned, the more I'm like, no, this is not a good person. This isn't even we're going past not a sane person to this person isn't even a good person. They can't even pretend to be a good person. What is it saying about everybody that they're going for this? And remember, I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church. I was very loyal to that denomination. And watching people that I broke bread with, that I called brother and sister to go for this, I'm just like...
It changed my view of human nature. It fundamentally changed how I viewed human beings. And it led me to research the rise of fascism in Italy, in Germany, and in places like Poland and the Netherlands and in Brazil. It led me to research what attracts people to fascism.
It led me to
and the reasons why they develop. And I mean,
I already knew a fuck ton about white nationalism, and I had a vague idea of fascism. You want to know what it actually made me look into? Leaders like Idi Amin. I was like, more questionable branches of the Saudi royal family. I was just like, this is not good. Like I was just sitting there going, I don't want to openly say that you hate women by your vote, but I don't know, man.
There was a lot of
I don't know.
Doesn't seem like you love them.
There was a lot of benefit of the doubt that I gave to people that I ultimately realized didn't deserve it, and there was a lot.
That part.
There was a lot of believing in a better element of human nature that I
That
really
part.
there. And I don't want to say that I've become a total misanthrope, although at times I nearly succumb to it. I don't think that human beings are fundamentally irredeemable or anything like that, but I do think human beings have a very malleable moral system. And I think it is easy to believe that people live with a code, but people as a whole, it's trite, people bring it up a lot, but that line from Men in Black speaks that a person is smart, but people are dumb,
and it.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that was something that Kissinger fully took advantage of to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
To bring it full circle and to kind of gently say
Put
maybe
a bow on it. Yeah.
to put a bow on it.
Well,
we really need to think about that.
Before we go, we need to talk about who is going to be the sign-off every episode now.
I'm leaning strongly toward Dick Cheney.
Do we put it at Cheney or do we give it to Bush? Because as much as it's popular to say that Cheney is the architect and Bush is stupid, we must never forget that Bush was a Harvard and Yale man. And a lot of this was driven by his fundamentalist idea of shaping the world. And
the reason I do give it to Cheney is because he wasn't really an Ivy man. And Ivy just means other white people are going to listen to you. But it's Kissinger whose acts are felt. So I'm going to go with Cheney.
Well, Cheney also was in the Ford administration, so he was definitely a part of elements of what,
Yeah, like I'm sure he and Kissinger had lunch and were friendly, as people of that level of horrible tend to be. I mean, listen, up until he abandoned him, Ray Cohn spit, and Donald Trump were besties up until AIDS made it too obvious for him to be out in public.
So we'll do it for Dick Cheney, but what do we say? We could make it not about Dick Cheney still being alive, although he's had like 6 or 7 heart attacks. We just
going into. I say we stick with the fact that Dick Cheney's had another heart surgery and they still ain't found shit.
I like that.
I was gonna say maybe he shot somebody else.
Dick Cheney still not in The Hague.
Still not in The Hague, and he's had heart surgery and they still ain't found shit. Either or.
Or maybe he shot another one of his friends. I don't know.
I say save that for holidays.
Okay.
Well, in that case, this just in, Henry Kissinger still dead as a motherfucker. Dick Cheney still not in The Hague and just had another heart attack, but they can't find shit. Good night, everybody.